described before. And here are some of the projects that the kids came up with. Here's a nice one. There's the role model. There's the work with these little kids, and look how happy they are. So that's the process. But more importantly, we can evaluate it. And this is the key thing, because we can use that process where we're trying to enhance kids' or girls' perception, and we can measure personal learning and thinking skills. So we can get the kids to think, are they reflective learners? Are they team workers? Are they independent inquirers? And we can also measure that perception shift. So, for example, to what extent do you feel you have the skills to work in STEAM before and after? So we can actually measure this stuff. So can you see that really we have a vehicle to look at? Is it the case that girls are different to boys in STEAM? Because we've already got that process in the measurement, and we can look at girls as role models. We can compare, do girls auto-select the ones who like STEAM? And we can look at a number of things. And ladies and gentlemen, final slide-ish. I want to really say to you, all of we do in teaching to the question, how do we get kids to love STEAM, whether it's the KICS project or girls in STEAM, really can be summarised in this image here. So let's just take a look at this. And this is an activity in STEM robotics, Aibo, the intelligent robot dog, by Sonny in 2002, this. And we did projects with kids of various ages. And then we thought, how early can we take it? How young can we go? So this is a mum who's a teacher, working this little 2-year-old girl. And what does it say about teaching? It's about creating a safe environment for that kid, isn't it? It's then making about the kid explore things. And of course, at times, kids do need a hug when they explore and things get hard. So, friends, when I said for all of our teaching, we need to start early, and how do you get a teacher to get her child or any kid to love STEAM? What's the answer? And the clue, it's a Beatles song. Let it be. Good answer. Not the correct one, sir. What did you say? Oh, you... What? What? We all live in a yellow submarine. Well, that's possibly the best one, but the correct one is, what did you say, madam? Yeah, and if you didn't know, you got a Gebra proof. Look at that. Look at that. Isn't it marvellous? Bless you all. Thank you very much.
So, any questions? Tony?
Tony, you said no selection.
Yeah.
On ability or anything like that, but was it self-selection? In other words, did the students choose themselves and volunteer?
I don't know. And that's the whole point, isn't it? What we've got the opportunity to do now, if we want to, is to examine. Because I've found that in all of my stuff, the girls and the boys, we just don't distinguish them in my projects. And it's cool, everybody's happy, everybody succeeds, so why do you need to do that? But what might be going on underneath? At the selection point, is it the case that maybe a lot of girls don't even get in at that selection? And a big don't know, which is why we should be looking at it.
I did a quick survey at my school because so few girls are choosing maths and science. That's sixth form. But I checked up with the students coming in, aged 11, and the proportions were the same already at the age of 11. It was, you know, non-scientific, it was a quick hands-up survey, but it almost seemed as though
Wow.
at that age they'd
Wow.
predetermined.
When do you think that may start? 2?
2, 3,
Do you think?
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of started saying that as a joke. I was thinking 8, 9, but who knows? Maybe 2, maybe 3. But it's deep.
Throw that out to everyone.
So, Tony, thank you very much.
Pleasure. Oh, and thank you to the students. You know, my Hungarian friend congratulated the students yesterday on all the stuff that they've done. And I must say the biggest...
We'll hear much more.
Hello, everyone. My thoughts are strictly linked with Wilma's presentation, and you will see that many of your other colleagues' ideas are somehow affected. My focus today is about measurement. So, what PISA test originally states itself, it is just an analysis, just a data collection of a situation. For me, it's important that the skills to meet real-life challenges. So not only technical knowledge, not only just kind of a list of facts, but application. What most of the people knows about PISA or thinks what PISA is much more this kind of a knowledge test. But the first question is that are PISA results could mean information. And if we would like to answer this question, we should know what information definition is. And information is, by definition, is a kind of a data having influence on the level of knowledge of the reader or the receiver, having importance for the receiver to know that, and third, having credibility for the source. And if you are looking at what we have here, the first question is, if we measure something with PISA, for example, what is the purpose? Is a function, you know the classics, diagnostic, formative, or summative purpose for that, or we have some special purposes, like for the sake of observer, representing that what we are doing is a perfect, or representing just the heavy activity. We are spending our money really on time or intensively, or just underlining the importance of existence of an administrative body. Or it could be for the sake of the measurement, just for measuring something, just for the process. Or we would like to look up the subject itself and would like to know about the subject more. The big danger is the deification of that. If we say that we do the PISA test or any kind of measurement just for this kind of idol, then we are, I think, on a wrong path. So if we know a purpose and clear, and we can justify it. Second is that what we would like to know. Knowledge? Which kind? Explicit or tacit? Hard to measure tacit knowledge, of course. But technically, we wouldn't be happy with just an explicit knowledge measurement, because the skills we use are, in many cases, using a lot of experiences which is coded as a tacit knowledge. Children couldn't explain, or experts couldn't explain from level. Do we know the level of knowledge, or would it be better if we know its position in the knowledge creation? I'm sure you know the Nona Kataguchi's knowledge creation spiral. Which says that the tacit and explicit knowledge can generate each other in circles, and in all rounds we have externalization, combination, internalization, socialization, and PISA is working somewhere here, trying to measure ability to use the explicit knowledge, including some tacit, some experience, some sixth sense for problem solving. So it's a good news that it is related directly in the position of the tacit knowledge and knowledge creation cycle. What the bad news is that many people think that it is working here, just for combination. How you can combine the data, how you can combine the learned facts, equations, definitions, models for solving a problem. No, technically no. If the student, the pupil would fit to the PISA's model, they will have to solve that kind of problems where external knowledge and internal tacit knowledge should be used, because the first situation they have to identify which solution direction would be the best, which method would promise good and efficient result or outcome for this problem. And the third question is how? What is the measurement method? And by definition, all the engineering, all quality assurance and so on are using the validity of the comparison. This is a challenge. What does it mean we should have a valid comparison? Because this is the meaning of measurement. We need standards to be compared to, an origo or a reference level or a norm to be compared. We need a scale on which we define a unit. We need a clear, well-defined and documented setup of the experiment or the observation, and third party can repeat independently. Can we do that with PISA? Unfortunately, we can't, because the subjects of the observation are humans, and our recognition, our understanding is working based on experiences. The first met with PISA tests have influence on way of thinking, on experience, on the tacit knowledge of the people. That's why the second round, the third round, and next rounds would meet with a different situation. We can't do the same PISA test twice, third time, fourth time with the same population, although this would be the only promise for having a clear, independently repeated measurement. And objectiveness is a question as well. We should have to get the same result if you repeat a test or a question or a survey. And we shouldn't have influence by the observer. We have some special issues, okay, with Heisenberg. And, of course, no influence by the situation, but PISA test makes stress. All the tests where people are involved, when they know that they are observed, are influenced in most of the situations. So, if we do the test, if we do these surveys, we can use the results. And what way we can use the results? The general question is that we use only once just for a reflection, like an audit, like just giving a reflection that, okay, this is your situation right now. Or we would like to use it in a continuous improvement. I literally cited the quality assurance, the plan, do, check, act, or the classic change or modification by Deming is the plan, do, study, act. Meaning that plan the action, do that, study what happened, and if it's okay, then code it, make it as a norm, make it as a regular custom. This would be a continuous improvement basis on a process. But if you'd like to make a trend calculation, we should have to prove that all the time-stamped results, PISA data was time-stamped, can form a comparable series. Can we use these data year by year as a continuous time series? Literally no, because the population were different. So we should use some impressions only on what PISA test says us. But it is a very dangerous thing to say that we can use that as a motivation or as a basis for punishment. What many people think that, okay, training someone for PISA test, training students for a good result on PISA test, really motivating, and outcome of that not only that good results, but it will have some good consequences on the job market or in the real life. It sounds to me that we had an old joke in the communist period in Hungary about the Soviet Union. The joke said that once an inventor went into the innovation office that I would like to introduce a new engine. It's a hairdresser's automat. Oh, said the official, does it work? Because all of the people have different shape of skull and face, and how does it work? Initially. This is a challenge. This is a challenge. Thank you very much.
Oh, I get it now.
Thank you. Any questions to Gregor? So. He's a show.
There's okay. We just saw that the study also goes in circles. And I'm not so very familiar with the PISA. Does it improve? Do these circles improve things? Is the PISA study itself changed then according to you? Are there changes to the PISA study from the one year to the next?
As I know, if I refine the methodology a bit, or in every circle, but their development, changes are keeping much more to the border of the external and passive knowledge creation step, having a much more general description of the level of ability to use of knowledge. My definition is for knowledge is ability to react. And that's why PISA tried to grab it, and it's a very important trial, and I think it's quite successful try to make it.
Oh, my ear's too small. It's better. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me here today. My name is Vanessa Gruber. I'm here from the University of Applied Arts, Vienna, where I've started my PhD at the beginning of this semester. So I represent the A in this team, and I was very sad when you were all talking about STEM, and I felt a bit left out then. But no, it's fine. In my PhD, I'm interested in the role creativity can play in the school environment, and even more important, the role it plays in current teacher education at German-speaking universities. Today I would like to talk about some fallacies in the educational context, and I want to conclude with a definition of creativity that might help educators to better grasp the concept. It helped me a lot, so maybe it will help others as well. I have studied art, a subject where I think hardly anyone would protest today when I say that creativity plays an important role. However, it didn't play any role during my studies. I was told that my way of teaching has to be creative, that I have to foster the creativity of my students, but I was never told how to do so. There weren't any accomplishments in the field that were mentioned, any definition or the history of creativity research. Nothing of that was in my studies. So I graduated from university as an art teacher and had barely any idea what creativity is, and even worse, how to teach or foster it. So consequently, there was this question in my mind: why is teacher education so afraid of the concept of creativity? During my research I'm conducting right now, I've come across some fallacies and obstacles to creativity within the educational context. And these misunderstandings do not only shed a bad light on creativity, but even worse, they even deny its potential and necessity. So I would like to present 4 of these obstacles today, or 4 of these fallacies, and I want to conclude with a definition by Plucker and Pighetto that for me was very helpful. The first fallacy is best described by a hypothetical quote of a school teacher. I call it, "On Wednesdays we do creativity from 9 to 10 a.m. Creativity is not a subject or a project or a set of information that once learned by heart can be examined in a multiple choice test later and then be forgotten again. No, it is a way of thinking, of acting, of teaching and learning, something that should be used in a variety of tasks, of projects, and it's something that we should use in everyday problem finding and solving. So creativity can not only happen at a certain time of the day or week, or to be left to art teachers, but it needs to be a way of teaching in every school subject and at every moment of teaching. Another fallacy that I hear very often, as I am an art teacher, is the equation of artistic design and creativity, or in more general, art and creativity. There's no doubt that creativity plays a major role in artistic design, but artistic design is more than just creativity, and even more important, creativity is more than just art or artistic design. If I let my students draw something in my physics lesson, it doesn't mean they do something creative just because they do something with their hands. There's a difference in doing art and being creative. And that's something I notice very often, that they say, "Oh, my math lesson was so creative today because I let my students draw something." But that doesn't mean that they are really doing something creative. Yeah. The equation of artistic design and creativity denies artistically inexperienced and insecure students any form of creative potential. If creative thinking and acting was only related to art, an easy excuse was made to not make the math or English lesson more creative. Another fallacy that persists both among the general population and among scientists is the assumption that creativity cannot be encouraged and is a gift received at birth. I call it the creative genius fallacy. The faulty assumption that people are either born creative or not, and that creativity cannot be encouraged, persists even though research is providing the opposite. Scientists show a variety of ways in which creativity can be encouraged. Some research propose activities, others focus on attitudes and decisions, while again others see the environment of a person or group as a decisive factor for creative development. Sternberg, for instance, believes that creativity is a choice. You can actively decide for or against creativity, and such a decision-making process could be easily encouraged in school, in every lesson that we do. The last fallacy I would like to talk about is the lack of definition. Creativity is often ill-defined or not defined at all, so the term remains vague and causes uncertainty. Different domain-specific approaches to define creativity focus too strongly on certain areas of creativity while ignoring others. At the same time, the various psychological and educational fields only partially take into account the accomplishments of others. At the same, I lost my point. No, here I am again. Plucker and Pighetto see 2 reasons why educators or scientists are so afraid of defining creativity. First, they are afraid to take the complexity and this mysterious thing about creativity. They are afraid to lose it by defining it. And second, they are afraid that they could offend their peers within the field and progress when they define a construct that is existing for so long. So it is not defined yet, and the problem is if we do not define creativity, if research is not defining it, how should educators become familiar with such a complex construct? So what I want to do is to provide you with a definition that I found very helpful. I think it's narrow enough to have at least some keywords at hand to work with, but it's broad enough to leave room for interpretation within the educational context. So here it is. Creativity is the interaction among aptitude, process, and environment by which an individual or group produces a perceptible product that is both novel and useful as defined within a social context. In the following remaining minutes, I would like to have a look at the highlighted or the bold elements and to give a short explanations why they are important when it comes to the educational context. The first one I'd like to talk about is the aptitude. Aptitude is describing a dynamic skill set that can be influenced by experience, by teaching, and by learning. So it's not a stable set of traits, but it's more dynamic, and it includes things such as motivation or attitude. And as we all know, motivation and attitude are very important when it comes to school. An intrinsically motivated state promotes creativity, while an extrinsically motivated state is harmful. The more an individual focuses on a promised reward or pending evaluation, the less likely it is that alternative solutions will be found. If the individual, if our students manage to distance themselves from external factors, it is possible to fully engage in a task, to discover new solutions, and to focus the attention on aspects they are really interested in. Thank you. The next I want to talk about is the process. The creative process can be described in phases and stages. We all know well as the stages of incubation, illumination, verification. These are still valid today, however, they are more seen cyclically today, and they're supplemented by aspects such as problem finding and problem solving. These stages, and especially their cyclical form, needs to be in our mind when we are planning lessons and when we are scheduling. As there are only 2 minutes left, I think I'll leave the next one out, the individual or group. Just one short thing. Creativity focuses mainly on the individual, and group creativity is not that popular yet, but in the recent years, or in the last years, there were some ideas on collaborative creativity that might be very interesting if we plan our lessons. That it's not only up to the individual to be creative, but that it can be a group process and a collaborative process as well. Last but not least, the social context. I think this is very important, because if creativity was judged within a global and not a social context, children would have hardly any chance to be creative. A 10 years old might not come up with a Nobel-winning idea, and I think that is perfectly fine. But this 10 years old might come up with a new and useful idea within its classroom to help its peers, to help to do something in the lesson. And even though maybe other children had the same idea when they were 10, in this very moment, at this very classroom, the idea might be novel and useful and should be rewarded as such. Thank you. It was Joy Paul Guilford who said, creative imagination is appallingly neglected by education. This was more than half a century ago, and I have the bad feeling nothing has changed since then, or not much has changed when it comes to creativity in the educational context. I think the fallacies that I was talking about, and especially the lack of a definition, might be some reasons for that, but they can be easily be overcome, and I think this is what we as educators should focus on, to overcome the fear of creativity and to invent or find ways how to use it in everyday teaching and not leave it to Wednesdays from 9 to 10 a.m. As my 10 minutes are nearly over, I thank you very much for your attention. I know this was a very quick overview of a huge topic, and I would love to talk in detail with you about that in the future maybe. But for now, thank you very much for your attention. If there are any questions, feel free to ask. Yeah, I have some references.
Thank you very much. Any questions to Vanessa?
That's a little bit complex and long question. First of all, thank you very much for the very interesting presentation. But if we think the foundation, so how much do you think that to being a creative, it has like a personal question, or about identity, courage, self-esteem? What about the safe environment? Are they afraid of committing from the other students? And do they feel there is a higher risk for a failure? And then, as you said, that how we define creativity, and where is the border to the stupidity or creativity, and let's eat creative ways and do all kind of mess, and then often what I have found that I also teach arts, that kids are trying to satisfy the teacher, so they try to keep in the tight limits, and that's really fascinating topics you're working on. But that was a lot of little ideas I threw out, so how would you like to comment?
I think this is a huge problem, that the environment and how the people feel about, especially the self-esteem, are very problematic. But this is something we could encourage in our students. In in the way we plan our lessons, if we let them have their own ideas, if we respect their ideas, and if we respect their creativity. This is something we could do on a small level. And I think there are several levels where creativity is important, as I wanted to show with the definition. There are several aspects: the environment, the person, and the individuality of a person, and all of that should be kept in mind when it comes to training our teachers to help our students to be more creative. And I think we cannot start in the schools and say, well, all of the students have to be creative now. We have to start in universities and tell our teachers how to best foster it.
Thank you. So we have another student from Israel who is defining creativity.
Cool.
I think we need to exchange.
Yeah, you should.
So
Okay.
I think we will have a good team.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes.
And we are very excited to hear about your project because it looks very good. So I think you are planning something long term.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very excited to be here. A lot of you actually talked yesterday and even today about doing outdoor mathematics or doing outdoor science, outdoor education, to go outside. And I want to show you today one possibility to actually do that, especially with mathematics. And I want to introduce to you the Math City Map system. Here you can see a picture of our team in Frankfurt. I'm quite new there. I recently moved to Frankfurt actually after finishing my PhD in Salzburg, so I also have some personal connection to Austria and know a little bit of Linz, not that much actually of it yet. Just some points about outdoor mathematics in general. The idea itself is not that new. In 1980s, actually, people came up with the idea to actually go outside of the classroom and do mathematics there. And what you need for that is actually some kind of guide. It can be a person, but it can also be just a map or something. So yeah, that's the basic idea of doing going outside. And what the question is now, what is actually a math trail? Well, when I try to explain what we do, I always say it's some kind of geocaching, but with tasks, with mathematical tasks. So you can go outside, you can walk a certain trail, and you can find some mathematical tasks there, which you can then solve. That's the basic idea. And we want to show that math is basically everywhere, and that math can also be interesting. And we want to do that by showing some authentic tasks, by showing that you can actually apply it nearly everywhere. Positive effects. We all know that learning, especially and mathematical learning, correlates with the emotions, with the interest and the personal significance. And when students go outside and see that they actually finally can apply some formulas on real objects, it certainly motivates them more than just doing that in the classroom by solving some textbook problems. And also there's a positive influence of corporeality, which basically means that if you use your body to actually experience also, and if you move outside a little bit, then that also helps to learn the content. We took this idea and came up with the Math City Map system, which consists basically of two components. The web portal, which I'm going to talk about right now in the first few minutes, and then at the second part of my presentation, I'm going to talk shortly about the app. I'm going to present to you the basic idea of Math City Map, and the first one is actually that all the tasks are on an online map. Here you can see some tasks in Linz. There are not that many tasks yet in Linz. I hope that in the future that would change, that more people are interested in using Math City Map also in Linz. Yes, in the last days or weeks, we introduced a new system. Now you can also have a 3D view over the city, and here you can see the 4 exercises which are basically right now in Linz available. Then you can not only see the tasks on the map, but also in the web portal. Here you can see the view from the web portal. You can see all the tasks available on the map where you are right now. And then you can have a look at the task itself. Another important aspect of all the tasks is that you really have to go outside. So which means it's no use if you can solve the task already by just looking at the picture, by just reading the information. Then the students are not really motivated to go outside. I mean, what's the use then? So they really have to go outside, and they have to take some measurements. They have to use some different tools, which may be a little bit old school, but yeah, so that they can also, as I said, physically experience and take some data by themselves. The idea is then that all the information or all the tasks are actually on your smartphone app, and you can also use a PDF file, which can be generated automatically. Here you can see the tasks on the smartphone app. I took a screenshot from my smartphone. Right now, that's the city of Frankfurt and the map of Frankfurt, several tasks. Then you can choose which task you want, with which task you want to start. And here's a view of the task. So basically you have a picture of the object which you should identify and then take some measurements of. You have the task itself, and here you can put in your answer. That's a view of the automatically generated PDF file, and the same task, this time not on the app here, but in the PDF file. So basically you don't have to use the app. You can also just use the automatically generated PDF file. That was one part, the web portal. Now I want to talk a little bit more about the app, which is, by the way, free for use, so you can all download it without any cost for the students or the teachers. Another important aspect, which can be very frustrating when you solve some kind of real task, is that maybe you don't get the solution, and then you're stuck and you don't know how to proceed anymore. And therefore, we also came up with the idea of, like, it's not that new, the idea of hints, but we also implemented hints, which means if you don't know the answer, you can just click here on the light bulb and you get a hint. Also, immediately after putting in the solution, the system will automatically give you a feedback whether your solution is correct or not. And here you can see the solution was not completely correct. There's some kind of interval. As I said, the students have to take some data. They have to measure something. And we all know that some kind of error can occur. So you have to account for that when you come up with the tasks. So there are different intervals. If you answer the question perfectly, then you get a green solution, and then it writes perfect. And this one, for example, is in an interval, which means your measurement wasn't that correct, or maybe you did a small mistake during the calculation. So it's not perfect, but okay. And in the end, when you put in the solution, you also get a sample solution so that the students can actually see, okay, what was the correct way to take the measurement, or what was the correct way to calculate the exercise. And another basic idea, I was right now talking about creating the solutions. Maybe you're right now thinking, okay, which kind of exercises or which kind of tasks are available? Well, actually that depends on you, or that depends on all the users. Everybody can register, everybody can come up with solutions. They can connect those tasks together to a math tray, so everyone can use it. We also did some research on the Math City Map system and on outdoor education using our system, and we could show that, as you can expect, that the students report a high motivation why they use our system. Also, the technology which we will provide helps to organize math trails, and it certainly helps to helps the students' learning process. We also implemented some gamification elements. You could see that in the answering process there were 50 points, so there's also a leaderboard and a leadership where you can compare your solutions or your answers to the solutions of other people and other groups. And our community is growing. Here you can see a chart of our tasks and our users. So basically what we have, we started with a web page in 2016, and currently we have around 4,000 users and 11,000 tasks all around the world. Obviously with a strong focus on Europe, but also some tasks in America and South America and so on. Now I want to talk to you shortly about a special feature. When you think about doing outdoor education, you probably think about certain problems which maybe you don't know what the students are doing. Yeah? You give them some exercises, you tell them, okay, go outside, please take measurements there, get the length of this and that building or the height or whatever. And what do you expect? Hopefully you expect that it works fine. What are the students doing? Maybe drinking coffee in Starbucks, yeah? Or something like that. And another problem may be that you can't communicate with the students. So we came up with the idea of the digital classroom, which helps you to provide, or which provides you with a digital environment to tackle all those problems. And it basically has three main features, namely tracking, chat, and portfolio. Tracking means that you can, at all times, when you use this feature, you can see the locations of the groups at all time. You can chat with them using the app, and you also have the portfolio which saves their answers and all their inputs. That is actually a screenshot from the digital classroom. Here you can see where the group is, the tracking. By clicking here, you can actually start a chat with them. And here on the right-hand side, you can actually switch on some options, and you can also save the portfolio, which means you can also save their input, which data they put in, whether they use tints, and basically everything else. So that's the end of my presentation. I'm just in time, I saw right now. Thank you for your attention. If you're interested on that, we're also going to organize a conference in Porto in June. And here are also some links. So, yeah, thank you for your attention. And if there are any questions, yeah.
Questions to Gregor?
Yes.
Do you use Facebook with, so do you plan to integrate it somehow with Facebook or other social media to be published results, or is it a closed thing?
Which results? From the students?
Yeah, the students.
No, like we don't want to do that because right now when the students don't, so you have two cases basically. If you don't use a digital classroom, all data is anonymously, which we do intentionally because we don't want to track them and we don't want to know which students did more or less what. Obviously they can use team names so that you can identify them, but we don't want to put a leaderboard on there or something like that. When you use a digital classroom, it's easier and we can also collect some data with that, or we can use it. But we don't want to put more information, let's say more information about the students on the internet or on Facebook. So that wouldn't really be some of our aims so far.
What I meant is that they do it, not you publish theirs, but they publish what they accomplished and share it with their friends.
That's an interesting idea. We don't do that yet. I don't know. I would take a note about that. Thank you. Certainly a good idea. Yes?
Just brief comment.
Yeah.
That's we are very impressed on behalf of the Hungarian delegation here.
Thank you.
The Budapest Metropolitan University. Immediately on Monday, we tried to motivate our professors and teachers in order to apply this project.
Sure.
Because that's brilliant. We are impressed.
Actually,
and I wish you lots of success.
I have some leaflets, so if you're interested, you can just take some. So I will put them down there, and yeah.
You are very good at marketing.
Thank you. Well, thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much, Gregor, and then hopefully we will continue our collaboration.
Sure.
The time for coffee break arrived, and
Like this?
No.
I broke it.
Second? No, it's okay. Now it's really perfect.
Thank you. Coolie, 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 coolie.
There's one thing.
Because it's if you put this in the pocket, then it's very stable. And sometimes it's...
Something is happening behind me. No.
One of our experienced PhD students. Almost
Thank you.
done, right?
Yeah. Almost is such a specific,
So
unspecific
every PhD
term.
student is almost done.
Yeah. There's definitely a light at the end of the tunnel, but we don't know how long the tunnel is.
The opposing train.
Yeah, it's about the train.
Okay.
Okay, my name is Gregor Tempest. I am working at the University of Education Upper Austria, which is close to the city center in Linz, and I'm a PhD student here at the JKU University. My topic, which I'm presenting today, is the development of teachers' professional identities through narratives, an approach via the documentary method. So you can see I'm a little bit off topic. I'm approaching being a teacher from a different perspective, through stories and narratives and through interpretative analysis. So today I want to give you one example of how I search for teacher identity and how it is outlined in my data sets. So before I start, I give you...
It's down, and also
Oh, thank you, down, yes.
if you like to watch your slides, they are on the monitor.
I need to watch it here. Okay, so before I start, I give you a very short conceptualization of what I think teacher identity or teacher's professional identity might be. So I base my ideas on the classical ideas of Mead. So I think that teacher's professional identity, despite all the competence-oriented research which is happening right now, is something which is very dynamic. And professional identity is something which results between my personal beliefs and my social environment. And I also think that the biographic content and the demographics of the students are important for analyzing who they are at this time and where they're going to head. And how do I find out the professional identity? Well, I say the beliefs of the teacher are dynamic as well. So through their studies, I interview them multiple times, and their dynamic beliefs lead to the dynamic identity shift through their studies. Yes, hello. So, I use ontological beliefs, epistemological beliefs, and affective motivational beliefs for my research. So let's keep this model. And let's go directly to the research question which I want to present today. It's how teachers' professional identity is developing in teachers doing secondary teacher education, right? So very simple question, yet a very profound topic, which is not very well researched yet in the educational community. So for that, I use narrative episodic interviews according to Flick. So I have a longitudinal studies during the first 2 years of the students. I have 18 participants. I will give you one example today. And I have narrative episodic interviews, which are argumentative statements, subjective definitions, descriptive examples, episodes, and situational narratives. And I use the documentary method as a form of analyzing my data. What is a documentary analysis? It's not just content analysis of the text, so it's also a reflective analyzing what's behind the text. So we have these explicit expressions, the intended sense of the messages. We have the direct access to the data we have, but then after we have done the content part, there is an implicit orientation and a reconstructing of what's behind the text and what the student is actually telling me. And this we do in a team, so not just alone, because it would be very subjective. And there is the formulating interpretation and the reflective interpretation, and then there is the typification and multidimensional analyzing. So validation for our statements we get if in the text things repeat itself in different contexts, but yet they're telling the same. So I will explain that then on the material. My impulse questions are, what does it mean for you to become a teacher? What is good teaching? What is a good lesson? What experiences do you have in your studies, and who do you want to become in the future? So those are very broad questions which should generate narratives, which I can then analyze afterwards. So I have asked questions, and I have the German interviews here, but I translated the important parts which we looked closer into English. So when we were asking about meaning and sense making of becoming a teacher, he or she was telling, I always wanted to become a teacher. I always said to my friends, teacher, and I actually never thought of becoming something else. So this is where we are starting our narrative, right? The introduction. So if you look closer, we can just, this is a very simple form of reflecting. She cannot really describe what he or she wants, but there is a strong intrinsic motivation. And from there, we start continuing. So then we have biographical aspects in our interview. She starts talking about study attempts. So we have a student here, which is already in the mid-30s, which has tried 3 times to start teacher education and failed the first 2 times. And now in the third time, she's again here participating in my study. So when she first started to study, it was pure horror for her, right? She did not expect her studies to be like that, and she thought that this study program has nothing to do with her expectations of being a teacher. It's a very interesting thing to say, because where does she have her expectations of being a teacher? And then in her second study attempt, she went to a different place because she thought, in the different place that would be different. Maybe it cannot be me, my expectations are right about teaching, right, in the first semester. And so I go to a different place, but then again, I don't have an understanding how this is of advantage of me, of being a teacher. So she stopped, but she questions, maybe I have wrong expectations. But still, she's telling me she has wrong expectations of what teaching might be. She still quits the program, so she cannot adapt. Then 10 years passes, she has a family, house, kids, everything, and then self-questioning is arising. She says, I work in the food service industry, but I want to come true. I want to give back to society. And this intrinsic motivation from the first start, which was 13 years ago, is still there. And then the third study attempt, we have a new teacher education program since 3 years. So she's telling me, teacher education program has changed, so now I'm ready to start again, because now it should align to my understanding of what a teacher is. But what is she really telling me in this interview? She tells me, I have very strong pre-existing beliefs about what teachers should be. and I shut down if I'm confronted with something else, which is not aligning with my expectations of being a teacher, and I blame the study place and I quit. I switch the study place, go there with my pre-existing expectations, and I continue. But then she puts her pre-existing beliefs into question, yet starts a family, and after 10 years more, she comes to, my current job is not enough, not important for me, I want to have an impact on society. And then she says, a new attempt is started. This gives me this time legitimation is given by my study program. Still, I don't have to adapt my expectations, right? So she still thinks teaching is there. She has this exists, she just needs to study. So I'm going to skip some things because it's a very short time. And I go to the role, I ask her about the role of teacher education as well. And then she started to tell me, in truth, studies are like an apprenticeship. An apprenticeship is always shit. You have to push through, and if you do, you can do whatever you want. So you see, this questioning and the pre-existing belief of the teachers, it repeats itself in the data. So our reflective interpretation of there are strong pre-existing beliefs, which are hard to break up, repeats itself. She says, I know more as a student, I do that automatically, where is the point? Subject-specific lectures beyond anything related to school lessons are not, in my opinion, important. It should be an apprenticeship. The curriculum doesn't give me stuff like, when do I have to give in grades, how do I act with the headmasters, when do I have to be at my job? But in the end, she says, teaching has been the same at 60 years. It needs to be changed. So what do we have here? Teacher education provides the permission to teach. It's necessary, but it's not necessary to be a good teacher. Therefore, teacher education should be an apprenticeship. But in the end, she still questions, but 60 years we teach the same, so it has to be changed. Yet she's not able to adapt into the new being of accepting the program as a new guideline for being a teacher. So I can skip to the results. To the ontological beliefs about teaching and teaching, she said she has very student-centered point of views. When I asked her about the characteristics, she said, or she or he said, parental characteristics. So teacher should be like a parent, but we already know everything about the teaching. But I still want to be important. I want to have an impact on society. My current job is not enough for me. But teacher education just provides me the permission of being a teacher, but it's not necessary because I know everything about my teacher program and the knowledge about my teaching is already existing. So if we have form out of our reflective interpretation, a type, it would be exactly that, because it repeats itself again and again in the interview, that beliefs that are, she or he believes that all necessary competences and personality traits are already existing before she even enters teacher education. Yet she complains about teaching is in need to be changed. And that would be one of the typification of the interpretative part of the interview. And the next step would be to look for this sentence, this antinomy, in other interviews as well. Other teachers' identities. Do other students believe that as well? And I can tell you we have 18 participants, and I'm now in the third year of my research, and this happens a lot. There are a lot of people entering a teacher education with pre-existing beliefs, which are very hard to break and very hard to form into something else. Where do I fit with my discussion? Where do I fit in? Early years of education in particular are emphasized in the research. Narrative research is an important additional approach to competence-oriented research, because you can see there's a lot of things which can never be captured with a questionnaire or a broader approach of research. Yet it's very important for the development of student teachers. There are tensions between conceptions and self-professional role expectations versus university training, and multiple professional role expectations. And then in the end, longitudinal different developmental processes from teachers. They depend heavily on their previous pedagogical experiences and is yet an unanswered research question. So my approach is to follow those 18 participants through the teacher program with narratives and stories and try to outline things which just competence-oriented or other approaches do not reveal. Thank you. That was my presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. It's a very, very hard topic to explain in 10 minutes, but I hope you got some insights of what I'm trying to do.
Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you.
very enthusiastic presentation.
Yeah.
We feel that you are really into the topic.
I love it. It's amazing.
What were her expectations, like precisely? Did she tell you which expectations she had?
Well, her expectations, well, she didn't precisely tell me about her expectations, but what behind the text she was telling that she or he has already a career. She's already old enough to be a teacher. So for her, it was like, I'm knowledgeable, I'm an adult, I can teach children, but I'm not allowed to teach yet. So I need this, my grades and my certificate from the university, but there was no real thoughts about that there might come something new from the teacher education, but yet she complains about it, which was very difficult. But then I can give you a little bit a preview of her second interview. She changes a lot in the first year. So in the second year, the output would be totally different. She drops all this questioning about her already being a teacher and just explains her impacts from teacher education, which gives me an understanding that whatever happened in the first year had an impact on her typification of the first identity development.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry for being a little bit longer.
Ben, so I think it's very good. So let's hear the ideas of you.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Ben. I am a special needs teacher, and I do teach in initial training mathematics didactics with Yves, who is sitting over there. I was PhD student at the University of Luxembourg since 2015, and I am now PhD student here at Linz since November. Okay, so my topic of research is fostering process-related skills in mathematics through educational technology in elementary schools. So we are talking about students from the age of 9 to 12. And it works. So I had since two research questions mostly. Which teaching methodology based on an educational technology is most likely to foster process-related skills in mathematics, and which education technology is most likely to foster process-related skills in mathematics. So we're looking for how to teach and to teach with what, or to learn with what tool. We started this in 2015. 2015 was a moment where I started work at Ministry of Education to create educational technology. That's also the moment where I met Yves. And we got the mission to find out first how could we support students in mathematics in elementary education. We had a national report with all our students. We took that over time. And we found out that in mathematics, until now, 26 to 30% of the students do not reach the expectations at the age of 9 years in mathematics. So they are low performing. We got the same result even in German, so how to read. Also, only 40% will reach the level, minimum level where they should be. Since both were very much related, this was very alarming. We connected this to one part which is in the curriculum, the process-related skills. So we have, I'm doing the same, I'm also talking to them. We have process-related skills, so skills which are used in mathematics, but which are based on mathematical knowledge, but also based on how can I speak in that language, can I read, can I communicate. We have problem solving, argument, communicate, represent. So we found out that students are low performing and are very weak in these process-related skills. Those students who are high performing are also high performing in these process-related skills. So the idea was, how could we foster these process-related skills for every student, independently from which household it comes, independently from which socioeconomic situation it comes. And we got this nice information also from the ministry at that moment. Please do it, work, as the OECD report says, work on these process-related skills. At that moment, we went into the digital age in Luxembourg, so there was a lot of money there, and we wanted to create a lot of technology. A huge campaign was started, and we thought about what could we do in an elementary school. We had digital textbooks, iLibrary, pedagogical, repository, interactive pedagogical. And we started with educational technology. We had 2 programs. We had one mathematic, which was created with a Canadian company, and we had the option to work with GeoGebra at that moment. So there was a choice which was taken, but it were those 2 who are totally different. One is a buying software which is closed in settings, a tutoring system, and the other, GeoGebra, is an open source system which allows different work with the students. What we did is, so we started in 2015. We used the platform Mathematic and created with the company items and a tutoring system to support these process-related skills, which I will show shortly. We evaluated that. We did a large-scale assessment. We tried it out with 600 students. Phase 2 would be upcoming now. We take GeoGebra, 3D and AR, and we will do also a testing if these skills are supporting, if the process skills are fostered by this. And then after the end, the plan is to conclude and to find out which education fitted the most for which goal and which methodology fitted the most. So,
I'm trying to make it full screen, I'm sorry.
Oh, now I'm okay, but I just continue. So there were 2 big differences. For mathematics, we tried to do a one-to-one. So the student could actually work alone with the platform, because the initial idea was you should open it up for every student, independent which teacher works with him or not. So the platform should explain enough that he could do it alone. So it's one-to-one. Okay? No? It's not working, no? Down, yes. Oh. That's more. What? I don't know if it's working. It's working. Okay. Oh, so that's side of mathematics. There's a lot of gamification. You see the plan. You could. The creation process. So first we created a tutoring system, and secondly we created the items. For the tutoring system, we took a lot of research we took a lot of models. I have to. I will do this, okay? So a tutoring from system, and we tried really to create modeling, augmented reality, and communicating these skills in it. So we took the research and we checked for everything which was done. What does it mean for the students? How could we transform these skills into meta tools, which the student could learn and use? And it was closely to what the teacher is working actually. If he works these skills, we try to be very close because we wanted to that he uses it afterwards as well. So for tutoring, we took the CLIA model, we took all about cognitive load, we worked a lot with user experiences to find out which suits the most. We collected the data and we adapted it several times. At the beginning, you have one learning video for every tool. Then you have 2 to train each skill. Then you have 6 items to use it in a closed setting and 3 items to use it in a semi-guided setting. It was not possible to do an open setting because the platform did not allow it, and there was no automatic feedback, which was at that moment not in discussion. So you have it. It looks a little bit like Super Mario, that because we played it a lot during the creation process, but it's a gamification, so the student makes a task and he's going to learn the different skills. The items were research-based, so we had learning videos where you can look, so the student could check that in the text he got a feedback if he found the right informations. We showed the students possibility to draw a scheme of what it could be. In the other items, yes, that was a typical item. He had a tool to collect the information. He had a tool to build the calculus with modeling. So it was a lot of creation in these items. Teaching and learning. So it was one-to-one student. The teacher had his only mission was to give support if something did not work, but he did not interfere with the learning. And we had some moments where the students could talk over it. The evaluation, we did it, so we took 600 students. They were randomly divided into test groups. We had matched pairs, so for everyone in the test group and the control group, they were matched by socioeconomics, gender, language speaking. So we had. So then they used mathematics. We did the pre-post tests, and we took the analysis of the results. We also asked with a Likert scale and gender, and did it change mathematics for you? Did this skill change? The results were slightly improvement with mathematics, and the control group did the same exercise on paper pencil. So they worked as well on it, but with the teaching. When we go on, we have we had some key finding, so we could transfer everything from research on the skills. We could create meta tools. It was possible, and we had a slightly better result. Though what was not so good is that the process skills which the student learned was too much related to the items. So they could not perform these process skills on new items which they did not learn. We could not refine these skills. So we went on, we did a second phase, which is now next phase. We thought about what if we took more open items, let the student create. So the idea was, which was shown, to create with the 3D printer. We had cube puzzles, we did a small testing now. With GeoBra AR, we wanted the student to take a look at it and to find the missing part, to recreate the missing part in GeoGebra 3D, to save it to a file, and to print it with a 3D printer and to verify if it fits or not. So there are different solids we want to print. Here we have this recreation process where they have to use a lot of skills to do it. And one main point we wanted to do is how they learn with it. So this time we wanted to use the math conference elaborated by Zelter and Krauthausen, where the student should first do it by his own, try to solve it. Then they get together in a group. They talk about their problems and how they found it, and they conclude on one way. And then the whole class will discuss and present their results. And after this, we're going to take an action. We want to evaluate this again. We had 100 students, 2 groups, pre-post testing, but added with observations, interviews, and collecting all these informations. So I'm almost done. Just next step would be, we have several classes who wanted to try it out, to create a methodology, to build these items. And that would be the next phase where we go. Sorry, I took a little bit longer, and thank you for the little chaotic presentation.
Any questions? So I think we can work on the evaluation, but it's very good that since you are here, that you already started to work with other students, and then integrating the ideas that you learned here in this project. So starting to work in a community, I think it's a very good advantage. So we are very happy that you are here.
Okay.
Okay.
One question.
One question.
Do you have any explanation why this process-related skills, why there was no transfer possible afterwards?
Yes, so it was a very classical approach. So we kind of trained to the items. So they did these items, they were illustrated, there was gamification, and then in the pre-test, in the post-test, they did drawings, they did highlights, so they did every skill. But we got items in the pre-test which they did not saw in the structure on the platform, and there are only very few who transferred the skills on these items. So it happens with a lot which is happening actually in class. Working on items, working on traditional material can be solved in a closed setting. Once you open this setting, it does not work. And that's why we wanted to go next step and really open it up and leave this more traditional way of teaching behind and try something new.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, yes.
So next speaker.
Which we are working together in close collaboration from Mauritius, a small team, and here Marcus and Schultz. So I will give a brief background of the education system in Mauritius and what we are planning to do. So this title is a DBO intervention program for the teaching and learning of mathematics at lower secondary school. Now, it's good to highlight that this study is being funded by the Tertiary Education Commission in Mauritius. And this is the logo of my institution, and this is JKU. So for those who don't know where Mauritius is, this is where we are. It's hardly visible. So a closer look, here it is, in the east of Madagascar. So this is some pictures of Mauritius, and we have a population of around 1.3 million people, and last year we received more than 1.3 million tourists. And We are culturally very rich. So we have people from India, Africa, Europe, and China. So we speak various languages. For instance, being a French colony, we learn French at school. British colony, we learn English as well. And all subjects are taught in English, maths as well. But we also have our local language, the Creole, which is some kind of French. And then 70% of the population came from India. So we also learn Indian language in school. So we have various Indian language, Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, Marathi, Urdu, Mandarin, and some people even learn Arabic. So, but most people are more fluent in Creole. Creole is the first language of most of the students. The education system is inherited from the British, so we have 6 years primary, followed by 5 years secondary, which end up with an O-level, and then 2 additional years to end up with an A-level. Education in Mauritius is free up to undergrad, and school are free, transport are free for all students up to undergrad, and textbooks are free up to grade 9. So for the assessment, now we have, these are national exams at the end of grade 6, at the end of grade 11, and at the end of grade 13. These are national exams. We also have one at the end of grade 9. But these examinations are conducted by Cambridge University, O-level and A-level. And the education system in Mauritius is very exam-based. So we have 4 national exams in the school cycle. And the curriculum is aligned with the UK because we take the Cambridge examination. Now, presently, there is a reform in the education system. Usually, at the end of grade 6, we go to secondary school, but based on the results of grade 6. There was some kind of rat race at the end of grade 6 to get the best secondary school. Why? Because at the end of secondary school, government provides scholarship for most brilliant students to study abroad. Their studies are paid. Around 60 scholarships. But now, students at grade 6 are only 11 years old. So government is reducing pressure on them and is shifting the exam now at grade 9. So instead of having pressure on 11 years old students, this will be on 13 to 14 years old students. And new reform, government is promoting holistic education. Many teachers have been recruited for holistic education, and they are being trained. So with this new reform now, there is much emphasis on the grade 9 now. And this will be a critical filter now for students to move on to upper secondary school, where they will be placed in the best school, normal school, or the vocational school. So this study will focus on this from grade 7, 8, and 9. And we are trying to implement the use of GeoGebra, the existing one, or new one, because existing one does not necessarily is in line with our syllabus. So what we're going to do, either adapt them. So first we have to identify those which can be of help to us. Then we have to adapt them or create new ones. So this will be, of course, in line with the difficulties that our students are having in our system. So these are the objectives of the study. So first, to diagnose the difficulties in teaching and learning of maths at lower secondary school, then to integrate the use of GeoGebra in the teaching and learning of mathematics at lower secondary school, and then to implement and evaluate the teaching and learning of the materials developed, and finally to explore the influence of the use of GeoGebra on mathematics performance and on the quality of teaching and learning in general. So basically, the issue in Mauritius is that there are sometimes some interference between these languages. So some words in Creole, most spoken language in the country, interferes with some word in English. So students create a wrong mental image of the problem sometimes because there are interferences with some words. So we are using GeoGebra for representing the situation, to clarify their mental image, to represent the situation so that they can have a clearer idea. So this study will be based on a mixed mode one, where we are going to use a design-based research. So we're going to first identify the problems in collaboration with teachers at school, visits, and so on. And then we are going to adapt existing tools. We're going to train teachers, and then implement, and then the iterative cycle where we're going to refine practice and the tools, and then analysis and generation of theories. So for the sample, 2 schools will be chosen, 2 low-achieving schools. So 2, Renata? It's okay, it's okay. So 2 lower achieving schools will be chosen. And initially 4 teachers will be trained. And for the first year, we're going to deal with students in grade 7. And then the next year, 7 and 8. And then the last year, 7, 8, and 9. So the number of students will be growing. And I don't think it's working. So the number of students will be growing, and probably number of teachers as well. Okay? One more up. This one. This one? Yeah. So it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. So data will be collected through interviews, questionnaire, and video recording. And then the variables that we are going to measure will be motivation, attitudes, engagement, and of course, performance. So this is a brief cycle, a model. Might not be the same, but kind of model, because we don't know how many cycles we might need. So the number of students will be growing, and then finally we will have our evaluations. So this is a brief of the project. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Cam.
Thanks.
Very nice. So it's really a really cool project. So any questions? Yes?
Do you teach Creole language in your school as well?
Yeah, Creole was kind of dialect, but then recently, some 10 years back, they have formalized the language. Now we have dictionary. Teachers are being trained to teach Creole in school, and we have been teaching Creole in school for the last 8 years, I guess. So they have started from grade 1, and now they have reached grade 8. But at university level, for bachelor degree, our students, they are trained in how to teach in Creole as well.
Did you think about translating GeoGebra to Creole language?
Yeah, Marcus proposed that to me, but I talked with the team last time, probably in future, probably yes. Yeah. Yes?
How do you choose which resources to use for projects?
This is based on our curriculum. So we have a curriculum which is rigid, so we have to adapt to the curriculum.
So you take the things that fits best to the...
Yeah, and if it doesn't fit, then we have to adapt it. We have to adjust, redesign. Yeah.
So I managed to show the things you wanted to show.
Yeah, these are some examples of the tool that we might use. And this one, can you move the second one? The net, yeah. So this one, you not only see the net, but we can also see the different pattern. Can you move to the last pattern? This one might not be evident for all of our students, but they can see these are existing tools which are there, which we can make full use of them. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Pictures are on there.
He's from Brazil. So our next speaker will be Jose Ronaldo from Brazil. And
Share your screen and
we will see that what he is telling us. So we have some very good students from Brazil and from South America. So I think it would be good to extend our network. And then also he's the student of our good friend Selina Bar from Sao Paulo. Okay.
no, enough. Jose? You were there, Jose. Yeah, I already wrote him. Hello, Jose. You are next. Or Selena, are you ready? If Jose is not there, then maybe Selena.
Natalia is the next one.
Natalia is after her? Yeah. Okay, so Natalia, maybe you can do your presentation because they are not responding. So we cannot hear you because you don't have your mic on.
So I have just a little bit manufacturing problem. There is no electricity in the village where I am. There are some restrictions due to repair or something. So I hope the electricity and everything will last when I'm speaking. Well, the topic of my presentation is creative approach to the STEM teaching. So it will just need a second to add my presentation. So. Okay, so what is the process? You will put on my presentation or?
Can you share your screen, please?
Okay, just a second.
Okay, now Jose is there, so you can talk.
Okay, so shall I wait or?
Okay, let's. Jose, are you ready? Because then Natalia will wait. Can you hear us, Jose? Can you turn on your microphone? Because we cannot hear you. nice to ask, even though they, yeah. Okay, I think Natalia, you can just continue, let the screen share, and I will tell you, say to be after you.
Okay. Will you see my presentation?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Will you see?
I will.
Okay. Okay. So, what is the focus of my research is a creative approach to STEM, and including art and other more artistic activities to learning and teaching STEM. So, these are some of the examples. For example, this is how we combined origami and augmented reality, where students explore, for example, this was the lesson where students explore the maximum volume of the box through the folding paper, and also with the GeoGebra application of augmented reality. This is also one of the recent results, origami encoding, where we used origami as an initial activity for introducing students to coding and to teaching them about loops, and it was in recursive coding, and since that is a big advanced topic, it was very beneficial for them to see this curve that they were coding in real life and experience it through coding. The next example is origami in 3D printing, where we printed geometrical solids that we previously made from paper. So we also examined platonic solids and other geometrical solids through different kind of perspectives, which allows more different types of students to learn about this mathematical topic. So maybe some students are more advanced in origami, maybe some like more to learn about geometrical solids through technology. So combining different approaches can reach more students. Also, this is an example where we teach students about sustainable energy and 3D printing, where we made a model of the windmills that are near the village where school is, and and recently, just yesterday, we got an announcement that we won an award for this model at the competition in the Vojvodina region. So it is also very good. This kind of teaching is very good accepted in the teaching community. This is also one kind of experiment when in the classroom students were teaching about mathematics through mathematical poetry. Even though it looks that mathematics and poetry are not connected, in order to write a mathematical poem, students need to know mathematics very well. So it needs a really profound knowledge of mathematics in order to combine these two disciplines. Also coding and dancing, and for mathematics and movement is also a possibility to teach mathematics. Besides this kind of following curriculum requirements, one side of the teaching aspect of the teaching is social aspects of mathematics. For example, the role of women in mathematics and empowering girls to take more courses and learn more mathematics and be more involved in this subject. And these are some of the ideas in very short what kind of direction can mathematical teaching go when it comes to including and combining with art. So this is it from my side. If anyone has.
So any questions
Thank
to
you,
Natalia?
Natalia. Any questions?
So Natalia is
Yeah.
doing everything.
Oh, no. Well, someone has a question in the back.
Which is the age of pupils or students for which is the origami?
The age of students who do the origami.
Well, mostly students are in the high school from 15 to 18. That is like the best age. Even though origami is considered like playful activity, so many think that it's very suitable for young students. But to combine mathematics and origami, both manual and hands-on activities with this abstract mathematical content, the most suitable age is from 14, 15 to 18.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
So it's very good to work with Natalia because she has infinite
ideas.
and then she's coming up with new ideas all the time.
Yeah.
So we are very happy to have you in our team.
Thank you.
And then also she's finishing her PhD this month.
Oh,
So
exciting.
that's why she's not here, because she's
Yeah.
writing. And I think she's writing another 5 papers by the end of the month. I think she already published like 30 papers. So if you see any connections, Natalia is ready for new ideas.
Please contact me. I would like to collaborate. So always open to collaboration, and because I think that math can be really connected to many things, math teaching. So besides you are a mathematician or some other discipline, it would be great to collaborate.
And then also we have a new project with Logifaces. So
Yes.
you will hear there is a new game. It's one of the winner of the European Game Award. So you will hear about Logifaces soon. And Natalia will tell you more and how all games will do with as well.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Natalia.
Thank you.
means change representation to generate understanding. It's a dynamic process of change representation to generate understanding. About two authors. About Rubic-Lyon, transformation is a process, and it occurs in three instances. Firstly, when quantitative or classification measures that are relevant to the problem are captured from the real-world situation. Second, in the statistical system, when multiple representations of the data are employed in attempt to understand what the data are saying about the real-world situation. Third, when the statistical summaries are communicated in a form that is understandable and convincing for the intended audience, and that is related to the original problem situation. The two authors, Ben, Zibby, and Friendland, when analyzing statistics seen from the perspective of a technology environment, affirm that technology offers the opportunity to create an environment learning system where computers can be used as a troubleshooting tools. And the methodological aspects, we anticipate that for possible observation and analysis of transformation process, given their properties and especially their internships, it will be necessary to elaborate, apply, and analyze a sequence of activities. We believe that GeoGebra allows the observation and analysis of development of statistical thinking, especially transformation process. And this study is still in phase of will elucidate a concept that understands statistical thinking has strategies used by the individual to make decisions at every stage of an investigative cycle, in which you conjecture the possibility of identifying and analyzing transformation process. A first conjecture word would be to consider the possible data representation that GeoGebra can promote in order to assist in solve a problem given in this investigative cycle. You have some reference about the theme, and Ronaldo is maybe can explain better the question. And I would like to devote important the International GeoGebra Congress that will take place in Sevilla, October 14-17, and there will be three languages, English, Spanish, and Portuguese. And Thomas has told me about the divulgation of this important International GeoGebra Congress for all you. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Salina. Is there any questions? So, Salina, we are waiting for you and Ronaldo here in Linz, so hopefully both of you.
Sorry for the problem. I'm very happy to see you.
Yeah, so hopefully we will see you in Linz, and then maybe you can send Ronaldo too.
Yes, he made Ronaldo go to Linz.
Yeah, because we need a second Diego.
Oh,
We always need a replacement.
Thank you, and sorry. And Renata, sorry, I'm sorry, because if you have a question, maybe Ronaldo can write the something.
Yeah, I think we can discuss later, so maybe we can talk. But thank you very much for the presentation, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you for you.
And
thank you.
Selina is running GeoGebra in entire Brazil, so, and then she's sending really cool students here. So we are very happy to have Selina here. Thank you.